into the what's in it for me process a little bit more. And today I'd like to talk about the benefits of what's in it for me to sales professionals and business owners. Now, first of all, we named it what's in it for me because there's just a universal truth in all the world that we all always act in our own self-interest. So what's in it for me, that with our process, there's something in it for everyone. Now, any good salesperson knows that he's selling a product or something in it for him, me, if I make the sale, right? I get to feed my family, I get to pay the mortgage again for another month. But there's always has to be something in it for the person that buys your product. We call those features, advantages, and benefits. And those features and advantages and benefits have to exceed the price of your product or service. We call that value. So there's something in it for everybody. And what's in it for me is centered around buyers and sellers and anyone else who knows about someone's intent to buy something. So if you kind of sum that up, it's like everyone over the age of 12 in the world in a free market system. So we have a pretty big audience out there, and as a result, we take it very seriously. We do take this process very seriously, even though we will have a lot of fun during this podcast. And we've taken a lot of time and a lot of money to get it right. And I think those people who take advantage of what's in it for me, they're really, really going to benefit from it and appreciate the amount of detail that we put into the site.
Very true.
So, what's in it for me as a salesperson? We alluded to it in our first podcast that the prospecting is the biggest pain in the rump that all salespeople go through. Now, there are some people that just like making those cold calls. I never understand people who like it. I understand and appreciate people who do it and do it regularly and they get good at it. But liking it, that's hard for me to swallow.
Yes.
So, Michael, by the way, owned a company, you don't mind if I share this with you, made cheesecakes. Yes. And I love these cheesecakes because they're no sugar, they're for diabetics, they're yummy. I've had a slice of it, they're amazing, and one day he might get back into the business and we'll offer them.
Oh, yes.
Through what's in it for me.
Yes.
I get a commission on that.
Of course.
Okay, good.
Also, we had ones that were low lactose, high protein for people who are athletic.
Healthy cheesecake.
That does not taste
What
healthy.
a world we live in today. I love
Yum, yum.
that don't taste like they're fat-free.
Exactly.
So anyway, back to the business at hand. So what's in it for me? Everyone operates in their own self-interest. The salesperson that joins what's in it for me, what does he want out of the process? Well, that was my cell phone, by the way. So we'll have to take notes next time to turn those things off before we start. The salesperson, all they want are people who are in the market for their product or service. That's all they want. They only want to be introduced ahead of time before they have to make their first contact. They want to get an idea of what the potential customer is looking for before they even talk to them. Sound pretty cool, doesn't it?
Oh, yes.
So we basically want to make sure there's a scope of work in that that the customer has answered before we meet them. So it's not that the scope of work is going to take the place of the sales interview or that, that point where you go and you meet with them for the first time. We call it discovery. Find out what the needs are of the customer and try to match your product or service to their needs. So it's not going to fully do that, but it is going to give salespeople an idea of what the customer is looking to achieve by their purchase of your product or service. We call that the scope of work. So this is going to be a little bit of a disjointed presentation because we don't do this from notes. We do it from sometimes a failing memory. But every sales referral, and they are referrals, that we send on to a sales representative has certain information in it that is very valuable to that salesperson. It's the time frame to purchase. This is all part of what we call the scope of work. There's 3 to 5 questions specific to your industry. For example, I sold business telephone systems. Now, I didn't need a whole lot to know if it was going to be a good prospect for me or not, but I did need to know general ideas like about how many phones are there, about how many locations are there, because I may have to network them together. Now, I know my capabilities. So if someone in their scope of work said, we need 2,000 phones, I would not even be interested in pursuing that business. It's too big for me. I was a small business. I was real good up to 200-300 phones, and that was at the maximum end. My real sweet spot was around anywhere from about 5 phones to about 100. That was perfect. Well, if I can get that information given to me before I call someone and they're expecting me to call them, that lets me know if it's a good step toward finding if it's a good match or not.
Correct.
You know, believe it or not, salespeople really don't want to make every sale that they ever present to somebody, because sometimes that customer is not a good fit for you or for your company. And a good salesman can recognize that and basically say that, you know what, I'm probably not the best solution for you, but let me recommend some other people in my industry that you should talk to. That's what a good salesman does. Number one, they're honest with themselves, they're honest with their prospects and their customers at all times. So in putting this what's in it for me process together, we always tried to get just enough information that the person filling the information out can do very quickly and very easily. So all of the questions on our scopes of work are radio buttons. So you're just clicking a button. Yes, no, you're hitting a range. All answers are that way. No one has to type out essays on what they're looking for their product or service. We'll keep it simple.
Yep.
So when you as a salesperson join What's In It For Me, you will be getting a scope of work for the people looking for your product with just enough information to let you know that you want to compete for that business. That's pretty powerful. Especially since this is all being done before you even talk to them, before you even know who they are.
Correct.
So that's a pretty cool thing. So that scope of work, which is a part of our APIX referral. Michael, did we ever say what an APIX stands for?
We've alluded towards part of it, but not.
So we never did we?
Not yet.
Okay,
Not
so
yet.
that's the, you know what, in the first podcast I said WIFM was a loose acronym of What's In It For Me. WIFM, W-I-I-F-M, is an exact acronym of What's In It For Me.
Yes, it
The
is.
loose acronym is APIX. So APIX stands for a Class A prospect, AP, with an intent, I, to buy, X, and an invitation, I, to call,
Yes.
X, and an introduction.
Yes.
So it's really an APIX 6I, but that's kind of hard to say.
Yeah, that's true.
Easy to get a trademark on it because no one has that, but it's not workable. So we call that an APIX referral, a Class A prospect with an intent to buy. Not just a stated intent, but a verified and validated intent to buy.
Yes.
And an invitation for salespeople who want to compete for that business to call them for an appointment.
Correct.
After we've introduced you. Now that's a mouthful, but that's what an APIX is. That is a very valuable product that we produce.
Oh, yes.
And we call it an APIX referral. So let's go back a little bit to prospecting.
Okay.
I used to, as I mentioned before, cold call and knock on doors, and I love doing it. But there's no better sales lead than a referral from someone else. We all know that. We know it, and there's a whole industry that was started and proliferates throughout the world called the referral group industry. You've probably heard some of the names of the referral groups where people get together regularly and they pass referrals to each other. Referrals are more important than a sales lead because if it's done right, there's nothing better than being referred to someone by someone they trust, because it says that you can be trusted. So if you can get that kind of a referral, then it's worth its weight in gold. Because when you call, they've already heard who you are, they know about you from their friend who does business with you, and it's just perfect. Now in the old days, before the internet and all this other kind of stuff, I learned early in my career that you want to develop what we called centers of influence. These are people who know everybody. So they're the big people in town,
Yes.
the big industrialists, the politicians, whoever they are, but they have influence over a lot of people. And when they get to know you and they know they can trust you, and the customers that you already have trust you, then that center of influence will refer you to people that they know and trust. And when you call that person up, you're saying something like this on the phone. In your cold call, you're saying, "Hi Joe, a mutual friend of ours, Michael Schmickley, suggested I give you a call." Well, that tells the person I'm talking to that Michael has already endorsed me. He trusts Michael, so of course, and he's not going to upset Michael by not taking the call or not seeing me. So the odds are in your favor that you're going to have a good positive outcome, at least on getting that first appointment. And so developing centers of influence was always very important to me in developing referrals. With the internet and with the way people guard themselves in business, it started to change, where the cold call was no good. The signs started going up on the doors out front saying no salesman without appointments, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I just sort of ignored those because I didn't really think they meant it. I didn't think they really meant it. I mean, what they mean was unfriendly, annoying salespeople don't call. But I was never that way. So I always had a built-in exemption. But it was more difficult of getting in with talking to people. So I thought, how do you get someone that has a need for my product or service? Now, as I mentioned, I sold telephone systems. And back in the days, the rule of thumb was about $1,000 per phone. So if you had a 20 phone system, you're looking at about $20,000. Well, that's not chump change. And it was always amazing to me how you had that $8 an hour gatekeeper receptionist who was making decisions for the boss, saying that no, he doesn't want to see you, our phone system's just fine. And you can never get through that receptionist or that gatekeeper. So we also incorporate methods of getting around that gatekeeper in the what's in it for me process as well. Yes. And that is probably the most important thing, or one of them.
One of many.
Yeah, it's a straight shot to the decision maker. But at any rate, gathering the information and knowing in your heart that you have the solution for that customer, and then getting to talk to the decision maker are two different things. And what's in it for me has created this process whereby we put you directly in touch with them, and you are always referred to that prospect. And that prospect looking for your product has already been introduced to you. Mm-hmm. They already know you. They already know your company. They know what you're all about. They know about the principles of the way you do business. They've seen a picture of you. And very soon, we're working on it now, a method of having an actual video presentation where you can present you and your company and yourself to that person.
Very true.
Before they agree to see you for an appointment. But it is a referral, because the secret on how we actually generate that prospect in the first place is pretty cool. It's actually pretty simple, but it's kind of cool. And knowing that we only will send you to the prospect after the prospect themselves say, yes, I want Michael Schmickley to give me a call. I'm looking for I want Steve Oling to call because I'm looking for a phone system. I know about Steve. I know about his company. I know what he's all about. And I've already been introduced. And yes, I want him to call. I'm ready to set an appointment. That's the quality of the referral you're going to get from what's in it for me. Oh, yes. It's an APIX referral, not APEX. Although it is the apex of all referrals. That is true. Very top.
That is true.
But it's an APIX referral. That's our product. That's what we sell. And then we package it in such a way that make it such an enjoyable conversation for you to have to make that first call to the person that's looking for your product. You've never met them, but we are going to tell you who they are. We're going to tell you the telephone number to call, the email address to call. We're going to give you the answers to those scope of work questions that the customer has actually filled out. You're going to have all that stuff. And when you call them, it's going to be, yeah, Steve, I was expecting your call.
Exactly.
And then you should have enough sales savvy to say, well, Frank, you want to meet on Tuesday, or would Thursday be better for you? And then shut up and let them answer you. Yep. And then you say, well, how about 9 in the morning, or do afternoons work better for you? Don't ask if, ask which. Remember that old sales training?
Yes, I do.
I think that was Zig Ziglar, but I loved all that stuff, and you try to incorporate that into your everyday life as a salesperson. But at any rate, it's so much easier making that first call, the cold call, to someone who's expecting your call and is ready to set an appointment. So that's what's in it for me is all about. That's what the APIX referral is all about. Let's talk a few minutes about the few seconds about the different products and service categories that we represent. There's about 100 of them on the website right now, just shy of 100. Anything from landscaping to attorneys to telephone systems and data products, you name it, we can do it. Accountants, roofers, plumbers, all the trades are represented in there.
Coaches.
Business coaches and personal coaches, absolutely. And with each one of those categories, there's 3 to 5 scope of work questions unique to that product or service. So that by the time it comes to you, if you're selling that product or service, you really do get an idea of what they're looking for.
Yes.
And they're customizable. I don't have to do 3 to 5 questions.
That's true.
I can do 30 questions.
Sure.
I just want to make it easy for people to go ahead and fill the information out and get it back.
Yes.
But we could ask things like, why are you switching vendors? I sell telephone systems, and a lot of times I'd get the business just because the current vendor taking care of them didn't do a very good job. Well, I could ask that question if that's one of the reasons. So we can customize the scope of work for each product category that's out there.
Yes.
And insurance, all types of insurance, real estate, it's all there, mortgages. And if you go to our website, what'sinitforme.com, and every page has a button that says submit a lead. Excuse me. If you push that button, a drop-down list will appear where you choose what product category you're submitting a lead for. And it's all there from architects all the way down. If you don't see your category, let us know. Just go to support, the support contact page there on What's In It For Me. And it goes to support@what'sinitforme.com. Let us know what product category that you would like to see represented, and we'll contact you. Actually, my operations manager, who is just an amazing young woman, she really is terrific. She's my chief operating officer, chief cook and bottle washer, as I used to say. Sarah does everything for What's In It For Me. And I'm so proud to say she happens to be my daughter, and she does a great job. Smart girl, too. At any rate, she will contact you and will establish what those 3 to 5 questions are for your scope of work. Our normal process is, if it's a new product category, we'll establish those scope of work questions with you, and then we'll make phone calls around the country to the same type of business that you're in and say, hey, are these reasonable scope of work questions? They may want to add something to it. And what we want to do is, over time, make these perfect. And so if you don't see your product category listed there, just contact us and we'll go ahead and get back with you and we'll go ahead and set one up. Very simple. So, Michael, I want to say that I went through this whole podcast this time without tapping on the table.
You did a very good job.
Do a good job. Good. So is there anything you'd like to add while I sip my coffee?
Yes. I want to say Steve has a great passion for what he believes in. He understands this business more than anybody does because he's been dreaming it, now living it, and he is
Obsessed with it.
Well, that too.
It's an obsession.
Well, that's part of the passion, because it drives you to be more than what you are, and you want this for the WIFM community around the world. As eventually, I see this as a household name as the years come by.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I do, and I do have passion for it because I love selling. And by the way, with these podcasts, I'd like to throw in some sales tips I've learned along the ways too. And so for brand new salespeople or there's a lot of business owners out there. They went into the business because they have a passion for what they do.
Correct.
But they're not salespeople.
That is correct.
And they can't afford to hire salespeople.
Yes.
And you know what? You business owners out there that are hiring your first salesperson, you don't even know what you're looking for. Most salespeople, you don't realize it, but they get hired because of their prospecting skills, not their selling skills. People hire them for their selling skills, but then they don't have any prospecting skills, so they don't have enough qualified people to tell their story to. And business owners don't necessarily realize that. So it's always a crapshoot on what you're going to get with a salesperson. It's always frustrating. And I've talked to so many of them that say, oh my gosh, I just can't keep salespeople. Well, guess what? A salesperson does not want to fail.
Correct.
So when you bring someone on, they've got to be properly trained, but they also need to know the craft of selling.
Exactly.
So I'm going to lay some things out. I used to do a sales course. Did I ever tell you about this?
You took bits and pieces of it.
So yeah, every Monday from 11:30 to 1, I'd hold a sales class for sales
That's
training.
cool.
Sales training class.
That's cool.
And anyone could come. And I never charged for it. These are from other businesses. And the only thing I required, I just touched the table. I hope that doesn't show up on the audio.
It's all good.
So the only requirement was that they had to bring the pizza. And then we had lunch in my offices, and I'd give sales training.
That works.
And the basics, nothing real deep. I mean, come on, there's all kinds of courses and videotapes and CDs. I mean, if you want to learn selling, there's an unlimited supply of really good information.
Oh, yes.
Sifting through it is going to be kind of difficult because there's so much of it. I've always liked Tom Hopkins. I don't know if you ever heard of him, Tom Hopkins International. I don't think he'd mind me dropping his name. Does a great sales training. But in my sales training course, I would teach those basics. And I'd say, look, one thing I taught, and I remember so many young salespeople would say, Steve, and what we would do, by the way, we would have a lesson, and I'd tell them, now you need to go out and try this next week, and come back in and report what results you got.
Exactly.
And I said, with the products that you sell, so many times we're just satisfied with getting an appointment with anybody in that company. And they're not the person who has the authority to say yes. So I'd say the first time you meet with them, ask the question, in addition to yourself, who else needs to be involved to make this buying decision? You can drop the word buying if you're uncomfortable, but memorize it because you have to say it every single time. Hey, in addition to yourself, Bob, who else needs to be involved to make this decision? And then shut up. You've asked a legitimate question. You're entitled to a legitimate answer.
Correct.
And they will tell you what the process is for making purchases in their company. And so many young salespeople never learn that.
True.
So they spin their wheels meeting with people one after another, and they never get to a person who has the authority to say yes, and then it doesn't turn into a sale. So those are the types of tips. They're little, they're small, but anyone that's never been in sales, look, practice the things that are hard to do because your competitor isn't going to practice them easy either. And one of the things that's hard to do is asking, are you sure you can make a decision? So you don't want to ask it that way. But in addition to yourself, Mike, who else needs to be involved to make this decision?
Exactly.
And you'll tell me.
Yep.
And then you say, oh, great, can you make sure George is here next time because I've got some information that he absolutely has to hear. So you control the selling situation, do it professionally, and your results will be a lot better than they had been in the past.
True.
So listen, everybody, thanks for listening again. I'm Steve.
This is Michael.
This is Michael. We didn't even rehearse that. And this is the What's in It for Me podcast. We'll come up with a cool name for it at some point. We're still at the Brazen Head Irish Pub. And I got to tell you something. I'm thinking we ought to do a lot of podcasts from here if they'll allow us.
I think so too.
Because, I had the fish and chips today. But the guy sitting next to me out there, they have a homemade pot pie. And I love pot pies. So I think next time that's going to be on the menu. I'm going to try it. And another stout. So listen, thank you again very much. What's in it for me? Whiffle Networking and home of the APIX Referral. Thank you very much.
And have a great and awesome day to you.